The seasonal struggles for Temple football continue as the Owls fall short at home.
Another game in the loss column, but more importantly, more names added to the COVID list and injured list following Saturday's loss.
Who's in, who's out, and where do the Owls go from here? So many questions, we'll get you up to speed. You're watching Inside the Nest, and it starts right now.
Hello, Owl fans, and welcome into a brand new edition of Inside the Nest. Alongside Dom Gillespie and Ray Dunn, I'm Adam Cronally. Temple hasn't had a losing streak like this in 6 years.
And looking ahead will not be much fun either. Temple heads down south to play Central Florida, trying to avoid dropping 4 in a row.
Let's get right down to it, starting with the Owls showdown against the 18th ranked SMU Mustangs at the Link on Saturday. Once again in front of a crowd of socially distanced fans.
Temple has not beaten SMU since Matt Rule was the man in charge back in 2014. The Owls were on a good pace to start. First play of the game, really simple screen pass to Randall Jones, gets enough space, and he will go all the way. Cannot ask for a better start against a team like the Mustangs, but SMU is good enough to answer right back. Shane Buechele finds Tyler Page on a screen pass of their own. He reverses field, and he'll find the end zone for 6. Believe me when I tell you there is more where that came from that duo.
Temple responds as Tavon Ruley gets the carry and gets his first rushing touchdown of the season from 3 yards out, putting the Owls up 13-7. On to the second half now. Shane Buechele and the Mustangs have an answer. Trailing 13-10, he finds Tyler Page, and Page does the rest. The receiver breaks away for his second touchdown of the game, and just like him, his team is off to the races, now leading 2016. Buechele, Kylan Granson, lead extended. That's Granson's third touchdown of the year.
Tyler Levine adds to SMU's lead as he bulldozed over linebacker Kobe Wilson to extend the Mustangs' lead. And speaking of Mustangs, Tamarick Williams looked like a Mustang on this play, sprinting to the house. Talk about efficiency. 1 carry on the day. It's the one you're seeing right there for 49 yards and the touchdown. And speaking of efficiency, on Temple side, Aaron Jarman, he's going to get the tight end touchdown wheel route catch there from 11 yards out. In his Temple career, he has 2 catches and 2 touchdowns. So that's pretty efficient if you ask me. But nonetheless, it's too little too late. SMU wins this one easily, 47-23.
There wasn't a lot positive, in the second half defensively. And I'm just not going to use any of it as an excuse. And I'm not going to let anyone use it as an excuse for us. We have to be better.
I think just throughout the game, we had some opportunities where we, converted on third down, kind of kept it going, but really couldn't capitalize at the touchdown. As offense, we just got to, move on from this and keep getting better, keep getting more consistent when it comes to stuff like that.
I'm a team first dude. So, with my team losing, it's still going to put me down. It's like I didn't do enough or I should do this so I can help my team win. But then again, me being a starting running back now, I actually feel good about myself. I know now it's basically my time.
I think just our communication and making sure that we are finishing. I think we've in the past few games, we've shown that we, starting well first quarter, and then second half, we got to make sure that we're finishing with the same intensity.
The exact type of game we expected last week from Buechele and company. The redshirt senior threw for more than 350 yards and 4 touchdowns on the day. Most of this production went to Tyler Page. As a matter of fact, almost half of it did. Page with 14.4 yards per reception and 2 touchdowns on the day. Bentley, however, was held relatively in check. Only 79 yards on the day for him, and tight end Kyler Granson took advantage of some hurt linebackers. This tight end found himself in the end zone once and netted almost 100 yards of offense.
For the Owls, it was a step forward from a difficult Tulane game, but they still did not put up gaudy numbers. About a third of the team's passing output came from the first play of the game. The brightest spot on offense was Tavon Ruley's efficiency as the team's lead back, putting up over 4 yards per carry and his first touchdown of the season. Defensively, it was a brutal second half, but Will Kwenku did shine through multiple times.
One guy missing that you typically see on those box scores is Ray Davis. If you haven't already heard the news, Davis announced that he's entering the transfer portal effective immediately. Redshirt senior Tavon Ruley looks to be the main guy moving forward, but each back did see time on Saturday, and there's 4 of them. Perhaps there could be more carries to come for the next names on that list that we haven't called much this season or at all before that Saturday game.
There was speculation this offseason that Davis would be on the move as well. His decision to stay originally came as a shock, but the end result is still the same. The sophomore is on the move, and this season continues to be very difficult for the entire program. As mentioned, Tavon Ruley is the man going forward. He has been Davis's backup for the past season and a half.
Right in the morning when it happened at this meeting, he called me on the phone. He was just telling me like, yeah, I just got talking to coaches and everything. I got suspended. He was just telling me everything they were talking about. Dang, I never knew that. I never could think that was going to happen like the way I'll be number one running back. I never knew Raymond would probably go kick up the team or leave the team. So it was like very shocking news to me.
Saturday was most certainly a brutal day for the program, losing 3 in a row for the first time since 2014. Our own beat reporter Sage Hurley was there with a look at the game and the quarterback conundrum. Hey, Sage.
Thanks, Ray. Another weekend has passed and the story is the same for the Owls. A lopsided loss to a winning team, and the quarterback saga is far from over. With just 3 regular season games left, it looks like it could get worse before it gets better. The Mustangs ran a shorthanded tempo to their breaking point, scoring 27 points in the fourth quarter alone. SMU recorded 549 total yards on the day.
When you're down this many guys, you're going to run out of gas. But it doesn't matter. Playing the game, you're playing the game to win.
With Anthony Russo unable to throw the ball thanks to his lingering shoulder injury and Ray Davis gone, responsibility fell on the shoulders of the backups and remaining running backs, like redshirt senior Tavon Ruley, who scored his second career touchdown as an Owl.
For me, I'm a team first dude. So like when my team losing, it's still going to put me down. But being a starting running back now, I actually feel good about myself. Now it's basically my time.
But game time injuries depleted those groups even more. Graduate receiver Randall Jones took a hard hit and headed to the locker room shortly after scoring on the first play of the game for the Owls. Trad Beatty took a tumble as well, leaving the quarterback position to Real Mitchell and forcing Russo to change from his street clothes to his uniform for the second half. But Mitchell improved over his debut 1 week earlier versus Tulane. He threw for 103 yards and a score.
He's got to stop being a little too cute in there with some spin moves, but he runs the ball very hard. He's getting more comfortable operating the offense.
More comfortable than I thought. Last week, just getting my feet wet really for like the first time was really beneficial.
On Monday, Kerry was hopeful that Russo would recover enough to play Saturday. If not, it's up to Mitchell. His backup would be true freshman Matt Duncan.
Onward to UCF, obviously a good football team. They really have been able to neutralize opposing teams' offense. That will be the challenge.
Coming into a week against a historically tough defense in the UCF Knights, Temple's offensive players left on the healthy list have a challenge ahead. I'm Sage Hurley. Ray, back to you.
Thanks, Sage. Aside from Anthony Russo's health, which remains in the air due to his AC joint injury, there's a slew of injuries to get to. Elsewhere in the quarterback room, Trad Beatty will be out this week after taking an absolute crushing hit at the end of the first half on Saturday. Randall Jones also left Saturday's game with injury after taking a big hit, and he will also be out for this week's game.
And Rod Carey's media availability, he did seem optimistic about Russo's chance to play this weekend, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But on the good news side, David Martin Robertson, he was available in last week's contest, but this week he's expected to get back in the starting lineup after being placed on the COVID restriction list. And as far as IGM goes, no time frame for his ankle injury that he suffered in week 2. And the way the season is going, one has to wonder if he's even going to consider playing at all.
With the injuries, the way that they've been stacking up, the Owls could certainly use a break, but unfortunately for them, they don't get one. But for us, we're going to take our first break of the show.
Yes, but do not go anywhere. When we come back, hear from Rod Carey, who's got an update on the quarterback situation going into this Saturday. Inside the Nest, we'll be right back.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. Well, more than just this past week, it's been a tale of two halves this season for the Owls. Going back a few games this season, Temple led in the Memphis game 15-10 at halftime. They were only down a score at Tulane 10-3. And at SMU this past Saturday, they were winning at halftime 13-10. They've been a team that comes out of the locker room really strong, but it seems to be that the problem relies when they go into the locker room. Ray, what do you got?
Yeah, I'll take the negative side on this one. The second halves have been downright ugly. The Owls have been outscored 96-24 over their last 3 games in the second half. Looking specifically at last Saturday, if you take away that final drive for the Owls where it looked like both teams were pretty much over the game, the Owls ran 28 plays for 87 yards on 5 drives and scored a whopping 3 points. That's 3.1 yards per play. Not good at all, Adam and Dom. Not good.
Another tale of two things is this tale of two quarterbacks that we've been experiencing the past 2 weeks. This week, I really liked what I saw from Trad. You know, the first drive went really well, but we all know I love Real. I love the dynamic he brings to the offense. Both of them looked much better than in that game at Tulane. And the second half, the defense kind of gave up. The game was kind of over. But right now, I'm kind of in this purgatory where Russo's the most game ready. But do I want Russo to go? I really liked what I saw from Real in that second half. What do you got, Adam?
Yeah, I'm right on board with you, Dom. I really like what I saw from Royale in that second half. More specifically, even than that, I really like what I saw from him in that last successful drive that they had. Coincidentally, the score doesn't really show it, but Temple scored a touchdown on their first drive and their last drive. One with Trad and one with Royale. But Royale, he started that drive on his own 25 after a touchback. That drive went for 15 plays, 75 yards, and of course the touchdown to Jarman. It was a drive that nearly lasted 7 minutes. It was very efficient, and one thing that he kind of touched about post-game, he got into a rhythm, which is something that I was very serious about last week. It's not just these one drive and then alternate. Because Trad got hurt, it became Royale's team, and Royale showed that the more reps he gets in a row, the more comfortable he gets. And that's an efficient drive to end the day on. And I would love to see him back out there Saturday and see what he can do to build off of it.
The quarterback room was also a theme in Rod Carey's weekly presser once again this week as he gave updates on starter Anthony Russo and what we should expect to see moving forward. Here's Carey and some of his players as they prepare for UCF.
Reviewing the film, obviously, tale of two halves. Felt like in the first half of one line scrimmage, we're doing what we wanted to do on both sides of the ball. And then in the third quarter, that slipped and went the other way.
It's definitely a different adjustment than having Russo in there who has like the pocket passer where he hands off the ball, he can throw it, and the occasional run. But definitely going really good. Real's been really good in the backfield, communicating the plays to us, but also gives us the opportunity to show what we can do on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, Real, he's a hard runner, and I think that's probably his number one thing. Now, he's got to stop being a little too cute in there with some spin moves and stuff, but he runs the ball very hard, and he's getting more comfortable operating the offense. So here's the generality. So coming out of the game, I know I'll be down 6 guys from what we had at the game. I know I'm going to gain 4 guys this week, so that's -2. Is what it looks like overall.
I got called out of my lift, and then I got told that my girlfriend had contracted it, and I was like, well, yesterday was our anniversary. We spent took her out to dinner, so I was like, oh, there it goes. 2 weeks gone.
Well, rotating guys, I mean, in a way helps us stay fresh throughout the game, but it doesn't really affect our chemistry just because us as an offensive line, we're so tight together. Before COVID hit, we would all hang out, go get wings together, go get pizza together, hang out, watch football. So we have a really good chemistry as an offensive line. It is kind of frustrating when you see guys every week because due to COVID protocols and this, that, the other thing. But like we said, like it's next guy up mentality, just ready to attack and get a chance to play. And we knew that coming into this season with the way this season was set up, that any chance or any opportunity a guy would have, he has to take the most of it.
As the Owls look ahead at the Knights, here's what's in store. The 4-2 UCF squad were selected to win the conference for a reason. They're loaded. Sophomore quarterback Dylan Gabriel is leading the nation in passing yards per game and top 5 in touchdown passes. His favorite target, senior wide receiver Marlon Williams, who happens to lead the entire country in receiving yards. He's averaging nearly 10 catches a game and over 140 yards. On the defensive side of the ball, Richie Grant is a ball hawk that can make quarterbacks pay for their mistakes.
As previously mentioned in the show, this team should require no introduction. They have terrorized the AAC since I have been a student at Temple University. While this year Cincinnati seems to have the reins to the conference, UCF is still a team no one in the country should take lightly. Its offense is powerful, it's unpredictable, and no matter what, they will put pressure on the defense. They will try to catch you off guard, and they are one of the best ones in the nation to do it. And that is all because of Dylan Gabriel. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, and he has been since he came in as a true freshman last year. He has the ability to pass the ball anywhere he wants to on the field. I mean, this kid has a cannon, and not to mention he has a slew of talent surrounding him on offense.
Yeah, that slew of talent, Dom, it goes right to Marlon Williams first and foremost. He's been a stud this year for Dylan Gabriel to throw to. His lowest output this season was last week against Houston, where he still had 5 catches for 87 yards. And that's why he's the top receiver in the nation right now as far as receiving yards go. Nobody has more receiving yards than him right now. The Owls secondary will certainly have their hands full with other weapons, but more specifically Marlon Williams, of course. And speaking of the secondary, UCF's Richie Grant, as Ray just mentioned, he's tied for second in the NCAA with 3 interceptions this season, and Grant also has 29 tackles in 2020, so expect to see that redshirt senior around the ball a lot on Saturday. Definitely a talented secondary member of this UCF Knights team.
The last time Temple beat UCF, Matt Rule was the head coach of the Owls. Right now, Rule is turning heads as the head coach of the Carolina Panthers, as we take a look at some former Owls with some NFL news. After a makeover of the roster in the offseason, Rule has his team outperforming expectations, especially without star running back Christian McCaffrey for a majority of the season. Carolina right now sits at 3-6, coming off a tight loss to the Chiefs.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson has been one of the best wide receivers in football this year. He is having the best season of his career under his former college head coach with 751 receiving yards so far this year. Robbie actually just needs 200 more receiving yards to reach a new season high, which puts him on pace to certainly pass and convert to having his first career 1,000-yard season. Undrafted free agent and former single-digit linebacker Sam Franklin had the best game of his rookie season last Saturday against the defending Super Bowl champs, those Kansas City Chiefs. He had the only sack of the game on former MVP quarterback Patrick Mahomes. He was also tied for the most tackles on the Panthers' defense in Sunday's loss.
So we went over the Owls in the NFL. There's Owls that are still currently in college football, but let's take a look at the players that we think have what it takes to get to the next level. First, at the beginning of the season, I paged this question in No Huddle. My answer was IGM, but with his injuries, it is tough to tell how that will play out for him. So Majay is a guy that comes to mind for me. He really came alive in the second half of last year, earned a single digit coming into this season. The defense as a whole has been kind of a brown spot this year, but I think he can get back to the old form.
For me, I'm going with Brandon Mack. He's got the prototypical size and decent speed to him. That's NFL speed. He's got great speed to him for a college wide receiver, and I think that will warrant him getting a look this offseason. The single-digit wideout might not be having his best senior season and what exactly we envision for him. With all the quarterback uncertainty over the last 2 weeks, that won't be held against him. He had over 900 yards a year ago and is one of the best wideouts to ever come through the program. Any NFL team looking for a red zone target, he's your guy.
Yeah, I completely hear you, Ray. I'd agree with you. Brandon Mack's the most NFL-ready guy on this team, but another guy you got to look at and I think will get that attention from NFL scouts is Jaden Blue. Now, I do think with Jaden Blue's case, I see him in college football at least one more year after 2020. Whether or not he maybe enters the transfer portal if he wants to go to a bigger school, we'll wait and see on that. But Jaden Blue is definitely a guy that has a lot of talent, and the numbers he put up last year and what he's done this year so far, especially when Bruce is in the game in particular, I'm sure he would like to get Anthony back based on the numbers he had prior to Russo's injury. I can see Jaden making a case for the NFL in the years to come.
We are going to have to take our second break of the day. When we get back, we're taking you around the American, which includes a wild one in Memphis.
And do not go anywhere. We're going to do a 2-minute drill when we come back. That is right. No Huddle is back, and you do not want to miss it.
Bye-bye. Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Well, Thomas, you've got prediabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Welcome back to Inside the Nest. We're taking a look at this past week in the AAC, where USF had itself in tremendous position to pick up its first conference win, leading by 13 with 4.5 minutes left. Then, Memphis quarterback Brady White engineered 2 incredible touchdown drives, passing for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns on those possessions to win the game. Memphis, 34-33.
Cincinnati continued its dominance over the AAC with a 38-10 blowout win over Houston. The Bearcats are currently ranked at number 7 in the nation after Florida upset Georgia this past week to move ahead of the Bearcats. This is just my opinion though, but moving down a spot after another dominant win doesn't make a lot of sense to me, since he is still undefeated in 2020 and definitely a team to look out for in the weeks to come in that NCAA playoff picture.
It's that time again. We're going no huddle with oh so many questions surrounding this Temple program. One can only imagine what Adam has in store for us.
Now, if you've been watching the show, all the fans at home know there's not a lot of optimism between the three of us, and I cannot see that changing much this week, but I will let Adam do his thing for now.
Gee, thanks. I guess I'm pessimistic on this show. So we'll start off with Ray Dunn here this week. I want to ask, who would you start at quarterback on Saturday if Russo is healthy and good to go? Obviously, it's either Russo, who's been banged up, or Royale. Who would you start?
I'm starting Anthony Russo. I know what your guys' answers are going to be. You go with the best guy on the team. I don't want to punt this season. I don't want to see who you're developing. Anthony Russo has earned his job as the starter of this team. The past 2 weeks have shown he's far and away the best quarterback on the team right now. He deserves his job back. He doesn't deserve to lose it for an injury. That is the leader of this team. That's the quarterback, and you can see it by the wide receiver output over the last couple weeks. These guys miss Anthony Russo, and this team sorely misses Anthony Russo. If he's healthy, he's your guy.
Ray, don't get it twisted. We all know that Russo is the most game-ready quarterback we've seen in the past 2 weeks. I know a lot of us were calling for Real, Trad, maybe a little earlier in the season, but Russo has definitely proven himself. While getting injured, he has proven himself to be the best quarterback on this team, just letting the other two guys play those 2 games. I'm not trying to bash those 2 guys. Real and Trad, you're thrown into a situation like this against 2 good football teams. You did what you could. Trad gets injured, so he really got the short end of the stick there. I really did like what I saw from Real, but I'm not a fan of running a 2 quarterback offense. Remember last year with Todd Centeio, maybe they could do a similar thing. I'm not personally a fan of it, but I think Real did do a little something to deserve at least a couple reps, but Russo should be the quarterback going forward.
Yeah, I definitely hear what you guys are saying, and like I just mentioned with Jaden Blue on our NFL segment, I think Jaden really misses Anthony Russo. Royale would be fun to see what he could do in a game, but I'm leaning with you guys. Second question, let's start with Dom. I think I know where he's probably going with this, but who's the biggest player out right now with an injury or COVID restrictions, but probably more focused on those injuries?
I'm going to sound a bit of a fanboy at this point. I mean, I think I've mentioned him 2 other times in the show, but it's got to be IGM. As we mentioned, the defense has not been turning many heads, not been the Temple tough, fly to the football defense that we've come to know and love. And that has a lot to do with the production at the middle of the field. Isaiah Graham-Mobley earned himself a single digit 2 seasons ago, and he played really well in that first game against Navy. As I mentioned last week, he seemed like the only person to show up. I mean, it's got to be on the defensive side of the ball. It's got to be that linebacker at the middle of the field. It's got to be IGM.
If we assume the health of Anthony Russo, which is not something I want to do, but if we assume the health of Anthony Russo, I'll go with Randall Jones as the guy who's biggest out this week. You saw last year against UCF, 32-yard touchdown catch was the one catch he got in that game. He's got big playability. You saw it on Saturday. Without him and an offense that's already without its top running back and really hasn't had their quarterback for a while, losing one of your weapons outside is a big deal. Without Randall Jones, and for the sake of being a little different than Dom, because IGM is a huge loss, I will go with Randall Jones as the biggest loss for this Owls team.
Yeah, Randall Jones, let's not forget, in those highlights, he started off with that 75-yard touchdown. You lose him, that's a huge key loss, and it seemed to go a long way. Let's go with the last question here. Back to Ray on this one. As we know, this is the first time the Owls will see a night game this year. So my question is more of a broad, not just Temple-based, but what's the best time slot, in your opinion, for a college football game?
I've been debating this a lot because the morning wake-ups for the noon slots really gets me. I'm not a huge morning guy. I think my ideal time slot is 3:30. I think I've settled on 3:30 because everything wraps up enough for me to be the night owl I am. But in the same breath, I don't know. I don't think there is an ideal time. I would love a 2 o'clock time slot. If we could do 2, you can sign me up for 2. But 3:30 is probably the closest I get to that.
My answer wants to lean towards the night games because those are the primetime matchups. They're usually the best game. Usually 2 SEC teams going at each other. Who are we kidding? They're always in the top 10. But I do like the noon slot because I am not a morning person either. But noon is around my wake up time. Waking up to immediate college football. Waking up to 15 games on tap throughout 6 different conferences. It's awesome. And I don't know what's going on half the time. I'm just watching college football because I love the sport. So it's got to be that noon time slot for me.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, if we're covering the game, I guess that would probably change Dom's answer. I'm leaning more towards that 3:30. Temple doesn't get a lot of games in that slot, but it's the comfortable time, just like 4 o'clock, 4:30 for NFL games. It's like America's game of the week. I feel like there's usually a great matchup on around that middle of the day time slot. But that's going to wrap this edition of No Huddle up for this one, and that's also going to wrap up this episode of Inside the Nest, but our coverage won't stop here for the week. Brand new edition of Owl Sports Update will be on TUTV this Friday at noon with Brooklyn Vaughn and Jackson Neal. Plus, a new game story written by myself will be on our website at owlsportsupdate.com and on Twitter following the action against UCF on Saturday night.
As for the guys in cherry and white, like Adam just mentioned, they'll be on primetime this week, 7:30 on ESPNU as the Owls travel to take on UCF. For updates leading up to the game, stay tuned to our Twitter at Owl Sports Update.
You guys can catch us here next week to break down that game against the Golden Knights. For Adam Kernally and Ray Dunn, my name is Dom Gillespie. This has been Inside the Nest, and we will see you next time.